are going to be recording, so I will start that. Welcome, everyone. My name is Elise Washington, and I'm a project manager supporting the Missouri Healthy Schools Initiative. Missouri Healthy Schools provide students with lifelong advantages built on early and positive health behaviors to improve conditions for academic achievement. If you haven't already, check out mohealthyschools.com for more information and resources that we have for schools across our state. Today, we have Dr. Lauren Schwarz back with us as part of a 6-part series on topics related to mental health and well-being. She is a clinical neuropsychologist who provides neuropsychological assessment with a special interest in patients who develop abnormal cognitive conditions from neurological disease, neurodegenerative disorders, or psychiatric disorders. She also provides group psychotherapy. Dr. Schwarz is an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry, Division of Geriatric Psychiatry at SLU, and she's the director of neuropsychology. Today, we're focusing on how to decompress your stress, including various types of relaxation and mindfulness techniques, and I think we'll even practice one or two today. At her request, as soon as we get started, I will start making each of you a Zoom panelist, which gives you the option to turn on your microphone and video. You don't have to, though, but if you'd like to ask questions that way, you're welcome to engage with us. If you would prefer to keep the video off because you're like, no, I thought this was webinar only, you can drop questions in the chat or Q&A, and we'll be sure to answer those. So thank you, Dr. Schwarz.
Oh, thank you. Please call me Lauren. And yeah, like Elise said, I'm happy for you guys to chat or interrupt me. Like if you want to unmute yourself as I'm speaking. I don't know about you guys. If I hold on to a question for like a 30 or 20-minute talk, at the end of it, I was like, what on earth was I going to ask that speaker? So I don't want you sitting there thinking, what on earth was I going to ask that speaker? So I am going to say that we are going to have, if you have paper and pencils near you, that'd be cool. I hope you're in a space where you can at least get a little bit of quiet. I actually have throughout this lecture exercises that we're going to do that lead to not only relaxation, but also a little bit of self-exploration. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, good. We had to get on my Mac, not my work computer. So bear with me for a moment. All right, so here are my objectives for today. We're gonna talk about the concept of mindfulness. I'm sure that you've probably at least heard of that concept. It's like I feel like it's a buzzword right now. So we're gonna talk about what mindfulness actually is. I'm going to, like, for just like that amount of time, talk about the science of mindfulness, because I think it is really cool that mindfulness actually does change our brain, which I love as a neuropsychologist. And then we're going to talk about forms of relaxation, because there's lots of them. And then, like I said, we're going to practice. So let's talk about what mindfulness is defined. It is being present in the here and now. And it's releasing thoughts that come into our mind without judgment. And I think that's so important, because we're all so judgmental of ourselves. The mindfulness is a practice. It is a practice because you're not going to be a master at it. When you start mindfulness, and I've been doing it for a long time, I still stink at it. That's why it's a practice. And it's important to not beat yourself up. Like if you're in a meditative practice and you're thinking, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? What time do I have to get the kids on Zoom for school? Like, those are going to happen because our minds naturally are not quiet. So just don't judge yourself. And it's giving whatever is in front of us our full and undivided attention. And so I teach this to the med students a lot, and they kind of, I'm the assistant dean of student affairs here at the School of Medicine at SLU, and they kind of think of me as like the hippie gippy girl. But when I start to talk with them about the science of this and why it's so important, they're like, oh, maybe this is not bunk science. This is the real deal. This is why mindfulness practice helps reduce our stress. So think for a moment about your typical working day. Like you're sitting down at a task. What are you doing? You're doing a million different things, right? And so what happens is when we're doing whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing, and our awareness is like elsewhere, that's a suck on our energy. It's an energy leak. So that's why we get exhausted by the end of the day by this, is because our minds are not quiet. So it's a skill set. So here's what you do. You notice that you're not fully present and that you're feeling distracted. Again, in a non-judgmental way. It's okay to be distracted. But then you release those thoughts and feelings without judging yourself, and you return your undivided attention to the task at hand. That's the whole goal of mindfulness. I had a friend who practiced mindfulness every day on his way into work. And he said his mindfulness practice was, as he was walking from the medical garage to the hospital, he would just look at the clouds and just observe, what did they look like to him? And in that moment, those 5 minutes that it took him to walk from the garage, he was able to kind of quiet his mind and get himself ready for his day. And again, it is going to be different for you how you practice mindfulness, but it's something to start to try to think about incorporating in our day-to-day lives, because it really is a core skill of so many other things that we do in our life. Good leaders are people with good mindfulness skills. It helps with quality care from a medical standpoint. It helps us be good parents, loving and caring for each other. It helps us focus. If you've ever had like a moment where you really got lost in what you were doing, that flow experience, be it you were working on a project that you were really into, or maybe you were doing, I don't know, crocheting or artwork or sports, running, whatever it is, that getting lost in a task, that flow is mindfulness at its best, because it means that you are honed in solitarily on that one thing that you are doing. And mindfulness also helps us really to be able to respond well in emergencies. So if you think about an emergency in a classroom, in a health situation, us being able to practice these skills really allows us to focus our attention solitarily when we need to, unfortunately, in an emergency if needed. So how you do mindfulness is really up to you. There are many different practices. So there's something called mindful breathing. That was a Freudian slip. It sounded like I said breathing, which is hysterical, because that's a whole other topic. There is yoga about that. Body scan, there's walking meditation. Folks that have chronic pain can engage in minding their pain. I put a website up here that really talks about, it sounds counterintuitive, but working on stop trying to resisting chronic pain and how to embrace it, and using mindfulness techniques to help manage it. And then there's the method of stop, which is when you feel like you're anxious and you're distracted, you stop, you take a breath, you observe what you're doing, and you proceed. And so for me, I can get in really, and I'm sure you can too, get in really high stress situations in my practice as a mental health practitioner. And I think, okay, Lauren, you're not going to be effective in this situation if you're dominated by fear, anxiety, and distraction. So the great thing about being a master of our own breath is that no one knows you're doing it. Like I teach it for test anxiety. I have people that have panic attacks that use it if they're in the grocery store. People don't know just by looking at you, hey, Elise right now is doing mindful breath to control her anxiety. It's an invisible practice that you can do, which I think is really cool. So here's where I said I'm only giving you a little bit of science. I promise not to over nerd here. But when we practice mindfulness, there's a lot of cool functional neuroimaging studies out there that show us what is happening in the brain when we're doing this. And basically what happens is we experience increased activity in this front part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is associated with being goal-oriented. It's associated with our awareness. And then other parts of the brain become a little less active. Not that these areas are not important, but areas that drive emotions and judgments and they start to calm down a little bit, which is really very helpful. And that's what we want mindfulness to do for us. So like I said, I mean, this talk is on relaxation, and there are so many different roads to relaxation. So we're going to do exercise number 1, the balloon. And I'm going to really encourage you to really try to put yourself in this and do this exercise. This exercise is really designed to help free us from our habitual stress responses and sort of think about how can we maybe program ourselves in new ways to deal with situations that might be really triggering of our stress response. And so really I want you to think about, we're going to be using our imagination here, and we're going to be picturing balloons, okay? So I want you to take a moment to think about, what do you think are the triggers of your stress? Is it work, a relationship, a change in domestic circumstance, worrying about getting older, being fearful of conflict, whatever it is? Just take a moment. And if you have a pen and paper in front of you, write down some of these stressors that you experience, and think about maybe even writing them down in a way that sort of rank them in severity for you, you know? Some example, like for me, I would say one is just like being a good parent. I want to make sure I'm a good mom. That's a high stressor. Being a good partner, being good at my job. While these things are also very positive in my life, they also are significant sources of stress. So those are some of the things you might be writing on your stress list. Now, what I want you to do is really think about the most potent stressor for you. And remember, what is your usual stress response in that situation? So an example of that might be, you get really stressed out about being a good parent. And oftentimes I talk with folks about, like, they begin to overcompensate. So they start doing a million different things, like getting an art craft activity ready and cooking dinner and like all kinds of wild mom stuff all at one time. That would be the usual stress response that I actually myself sometimes engage in. Now, I want you to imagine that you're blowing up a balloon and you're just exhaling that typical stress response into that balloon. Now, I want you to imagine that you have a huge pin and you pop that balloon. Imagine in your mind the release of tension, of letting go of that habit of responding in a stressful way that really doesn't serve you from a wellness perspective. Just watch it explode. Envision in your mind that old stress response, you're leaving it behind. Now, I want you to take a second balloon in your mind and exhale into it positive energy. Breath by breath, how would you think it might be less stressful for you to respond in that situation? What would your new action look like, or your new thought? And fill that balloon up with that thought. Symbolize in that balloon the hope and the promise to yourself of a new way of dealing with the stress. Imagine now letting go of that balloon and letting it float up, so that the next time you face the situation, recall that balloon. And what message did you send yourself in there? Okay. So really, when we think about relaxation, it's not just about sitting down and having quiet. It's also about releasing things that take away from us, meaning things that add stress. So really, the whole goal of relaxation is trying to release things that no longer serve us, meaning things that take away or detract from our mental health and well-being. So many, many different things that we can do with relaxation. Like I said, the breath work, yoga, whatever it is that serves you. But the benefits there's no one size fits all. So it's really got to be what works for you. If you feel like what you're doing to de-stress is adding stress, that's counterintuitive. So I've had like discussions with people who've said, Lauren, I just really want this yoga thing to work for me, but I hate it. I hate downward dog. I don't like looking up at the floor and then the sky. I hate it. It makes me dizzy. Well, then don't do it. It's not relaxing for you. It's actually adding stress. So when you look at research on when you find that technique that works for you and practicing it on a consistent basis, it slows our heart rate down. It's been shown to lower blood pressure, helps with digestion. We see that it helps improve our blood glucose. It helps with blood sugar. This is amazing. A reduction of things like cortisol, our stress hormone. It increases blood flow to our muscles. So that helps with that. We all sit like this, right, in front of our desks. So getting increased blood flow and relaxation, that helps with muscle tension and chronic pain. A lot of us suffer from severe tension in the upper back, which leads to tension headaches. I don't know about you, but I hate tension headaches. We also know that relaxation improves concentration. It improves mood, sleep. It helps with fatigue, all of these things. And it also helps us to have less of a short fuse. So less anger, less frustration. All of these things can be very helpful.
Hey, Lauren, and this is, I'll add, I recently read a book that talks so much about the importance of moving the body. And I don't like it when it's framed just as exercise, like, you do a 6-mile run, because when you mention if it's stressing you out, that's running for me when I try to force myself to go on runs. But just moving the body like helps your body process that cortisol that's been released when you have that fight or flight syndrome. So whether it's a walk, get up from the desk, or in my case, dining room table, and move around. I think that's one of the best tips I've ever read about.
Absolutely. Walking is far more beneficial for our bodies than running. I am an ex-runner who is reformed and realized the error of my judgment. But I think absolutely. I think the E word maybe is a negative word, the exercise word. I like changing it to movement because.
And I enjoy running, but when I was forcing myself to like mentality of I had to run a certain amount of miles or in a time, like that was when it was such a struggle. And now that I take a much more wellness focused approach to it, I enjoy it more.
You make an excellent point. When you feel like it's prescribed and forced and you're shoulding on yourself, that's really when it's defeating the purpose of what you're doing. It should be for calming and enjoyment, right? So there are different types of techniques. So one is called autogenic relaxation, meaning it's something that comes from within you. So this is a relaxation technique where it's, you might use visual imagery. You could get an app like Headspace that could walk you through guided meditation. It's also about being bodily aware. So you can do things called body scans where, you really just sit for a moment. And you can even do that right now, is just close your eyes and just feel your body where you're sitting and notice, where does it feel tight, stressed? So, and focusing energy on those areas, it's helpful because I think we do mindlessly go through our day in terms of how we're treating our bodies at times, especially now that I think since the pandemic, a lot of us are a lot more sedentary than we have been before. And so being mindful about our sedentariness is important because it really gets us, like Elise said, to move. Progressive muscle relaxation is a technique where you, usually it's best to like get an audio recording of this, especially if you're starting off doing this yourself. It's where you relax the muscles by beginning with a tension of that muscle group and then a slow release. So you do things like shrug your shoulders for a set amount of time and you let it go. And so really the point is to go through all the muscle groups by slowly releasing the tension And it really feels very good if you've gone through a full, thorough, progressive muscle relaxation. You kind of feel a little bit like gelatin afterwards, which every now and then, I don't know about you guys, I like to feel like a bowl of Jello. And then visualization is when, you might use mental images to go through just a peaceful journey. So if you're having a particularly stressful moment and gosh, I really can't devote 15 minutes to some kind of mindfulness practice, maybe it's just you go to a certain spot in your mind, which is, some people really are into beach scenes. I've had other folks say, I hate sand. I don't want it anywhere near me. I like to be in the forest. That's fine. But to come to that spot in your mind and just be there for a moment, I think is really important. And these are all ways to slow down your heart rate.
Lauren, we
Yeah.
do have a question in the chat about, do you have specific recommendations for audio recordings for some of the guided progressive muscle relaxation? I know I've used Spotify. I found random ones, but do you have any favorites?
Yeah, they're on Spotify. And then I really like, there are a bunch of apps on the phone, which I could share with you guys too. Headspace has some of them. You believe it or not, YouTube has some great ones too. They're very easy. So it's in terms of, it's not like you have to find someone that's like the most well-known person in this area, because basically they read through you just tensing and relaxing muscle groups. So honestly, Headspace, there's an app called Pacifica, but really you could just go online and find one that really speaks to you on YouTube and use it. They're very easy. So it's not like you're going to harm yourself by not finding like the person in the area. I hope that answers your question. Other methods of relaxation, meditation, we've mentioned, massage. I don't know about folks right now. I'm a little kind of, I'm on the fence about getting massage during COVID. Tai Chi is a really awesome practice. We have a group of older adults with memory problems that have learned Tai Chi, and they really like it in my clinic. Biofeedback is awesome. So if you're somebody that really feels your anxiety very physically, and you get nervous and your heart rate gets up, biofeedback is empirically supported treatment for helping you. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but basically a psychologist hooks you up to things that monitor your heart rate and your skin stress response, and can show you physically what is happening to your body when you're stressed out, and then teach you techniques to how it calms down. And it's super cool because you can see on the machine, man, what I'm doing right now is actually helping to calm me down, which is really cool. There's also a lot of science behind music and art therapy. We use music therapy in the operating room. Aromatherapy is really big. I don't know about you all, but I love the smell of lavender. I sometimes with my kiddo, when he's getting particularly stressed out, I've read about this, and this is really cool. You put a little lavender oil on the wrist, and some kids are really sensory. And so when he gets kind of like nervous or a little hyper at school, he sniffs his little lavender oil on his wrist, and that's really helpful for him. I also like to sniff the lavender on my wrist. So there you go. These things have all been shown to be very helpful at calming the system down. All right, so exercise number 2, here we go. So now we are going to do sort of a visualization, sort of meditative exercise. So this is a really simple meditative breathing exercise that's going to help you reestablish a calming breath. And this is a really good, what I would call first aid kind of exercise when you're really dealing with a difficult emotional situation. And it's really helpful. So here we go. I want you to sit, which probably you are already, and close your eyes. Visualize your thoughts as a mass of bubbles. Exhale slowly through your mouth. As you do so, imagine all these thought bubbles being blown away. And as all of these thoughts blow away, you begin to feel more relaxed. Now redirect your entire attention to your nostrils. Breathe in and out through your nose. As you do so, visualize the air passing through your nostrils at your beck and call. Concentrate hard on producing a long, smooth exhalation and let the inhalation take care of itself. If your mind starts to wander, don't give up. Simply refocus your attention on your breath and try to let the sensation of breathing fill your consciousness. And you can really practice this during the day for as long as you feel comfortable doing so. I really like that image of we really are full of mental chatter. And I'm a visual person, and I really like thinking about exhaling all of that mental chatter and breathing in maybe more positive, calming energy. And I also like how this exercise really says, just simply when you get sidetracked, just refocus yourself, and that's okay. And when you're starting breath work for the first time, I would say just try to do it for a few minutes a day. Sometimes people like to do it at various different times, and you do what's right for you. Some people say, I really like to do it kind of first thing before I start my day in the morning. Some people do it midday when they're like, it's kind of the final push to get them through the workday. And others say, I really like to use it as a sort of like, it's like you're taking off your work hat at the end of the day, so to speak. It's like, okay, I'm home now. I'm leaving my work and stressors of the day behind me. I'm going to take a couple minutes to control my breath. And now this is my me and my family time. So, whatever works for you, but you play around with it and see when it's best for you. And some people like to do it when they get into bed to help quiet their minds, because sometimes, this is my teaser for my talk next time, we're going to be talking about sleep. Sometimes insomnia is because our minds are not quiet, and breath work sometimes really can help us quiet our minds. So I have this little wild slide up here because I think I showed this maybe in my last talk, to say that there is no judgment here about what helps to relax you, as long as it's something obviously that's not harmful to yourself. But whatever it is that helps to quiet your mind and make you feel more at peace is what is right for you. That's why it's really hard to, when you're working within a big organization, I'm kind of the go-to person to say, Lauren, we need to do a wellness program. We got to get it going. You got to calm these physicians down. Well, I appreciate that, the sentiment. Obviously, we need to do that. But it's hard to do a one-size-fits-all program, because what works for Dr. Smith maybe is going for a run, and Dr. Jones really likes to just, paint. So it's hard. So that's why I always want to tell people, like, number one, do what's right for you. Don't judge others for what makes them well and relaxed. But it's also good if you are working as a group to try to figure out wellness and relaxation strategies together. It's good to do it sort of as a group think action, because you really need to know what the stakeholders want to do when you're doing offerings. All right, so now we're going to do another exercise, which is, this one's a little more serious. Not that these aren't serious, but this one really is going to kind of really require you to kind of really think about yourself. So personal understanding lies far beneath the surface of ourself, really. A great distance from the clamoring of voices and labels of ourselves. And we might call this place our center. This is kind of who we are. These are our core values. And this is sort of the core truth of ourselves. So this image and visualization that we're going to do right now is going to try to help you think about how you can locate that center of truth for yourself. I want you to close your eyes and take a few breaths for a moment. Concentrate on the stilling of your mind. Imagine that you are floating in a warm ocean. Sunlight falls on your shoulders, and you're drifting without effort. Now you're gently swimming beneath the surface of the ocean, feeling increasingly calm by the water's caresses. Just beneath you, you see the wreck of a ship, the outer shell of your own psyche. As you approach, you see that the ship's woodwork has rotted. You swim in through an opening. The further into the ship you swim, the cleaner and the brighter the water becomes. At the center of the ship, unspoiled, lies a chest of precious objects, each one an aspect of your true self. Spend time rediscovering yourself. Pick up each object and reflect on its meaning. A coin might represent your honesty. A chalice, your generosity. Swim back to the surface, relaxed in the knowledge of your own worth. I really like that a whole lot. And really, when we think about all of the things that we're talking about today, mindfulness, meditation, relaxation techniques, it's really, truly, ultimately about appreciating your own worth as a person, right? Taking care of yourself. So I encourage you, obviously this is a webinar, so there's a little bit of artificiality, of course, associated with it. But I encourage you to maybe later today or at another time, spend some time really thinking about this particular exercise. I like this a lot. Is that maybe when you're having a down day, you're feeling bad about yourself, you're feeling like, gosh, maybe I wasn't my best self today. In your mind, go back underwater into that ship and look in that chest and find what's your core? What makes you you? Because all of us are valuable. All of us are wonderful and worthy of love, right? And so that recognition gives us peace. You know, it's hard to say good things about ourselves. Like when I do this exercise with patients, they look at me like I'm like, what are you talking about? You know? So I challenge you to get in touch with that part of yourself and to appreciate and to bask in it. So I like I did last time, and I didn't mention that, sorry, at the beginning of this talk, I know our attention spans really, let's all be honest on the call, on a Zoom sort of situation, it only lasts for like 30 to 35 minutes. And I appreciate that. And I know that from personal experience. So I have a few talking points. last time some folks talked, I'm gonna call Elise out to unmute herself on camera now. Cause if you guys don't talk, she and I can just banter back and forth. But are folks willing to share? Cause I found when I've done these calls at the medical center, like we really learn from each other. Each one of us is a font of knowledge, and shared experience can be so rich. So what are some folks' go-to de-stressor? Does anybody feel comfortable sharing? And I'm looking, let's see, I don't know, for some reason, I don't see the chat on some reason on my.
If you hover, it'll be at the bottom.
Okay, I got it.
But,
Okay.
I'm seeing it.
So, okay, here we go. Wait a minute. I actually went there. Wait, oh, we got a lot in the chat. So let's see.
I'm seeing television being watched.
I actually went there in my mind underwater. Oh, I love that you did that, Deborah, that you went underwater. I love that. Okay. Oh, yep. We got television, exercise, even when it's cold. I love that you put that. So it's so good to move the bodies, even when it's cold. If it's like negative, okay, maybe I'll give you an excuse with that one. Weightlifting, reading. I love this. Walk dog, yoga, sewing, long walk in nature. I love to get outside. Cooking, that's great. Reading, being outside, music, aroma, being outside with kids, cooking and walking, reading verses from the Bible, exercise. I know the super cold temp is messing us up for walking. Cleaning. Could you please come to my house, Sarah? I would appreciate that. Oh, Kristen, you make an excellent point. Humor. Yes. I agree completely, because I don't think I would have survived the last year without humor. And, I think it's appropriate too, if we are like, what, we know that this is a difficult situation, but we're allowed to make light of it and no one's minimizing it. Ooh, I like board games, spending time with friends and family. Oh, Jill, I got a fellow puzzler. I love puzzles. Oh yeah. Sarah, I hate messes too. That stresses me out too. So I relax better when there's less clutter too. Being outside, puzzling. I love puzzles. Yep.
I recently discovered about a year ago is when or maybe even longer, the adult coloring books.
Oh yeah, those are fun.
I always thought it was a little silly. Like I thought it was cute, but I bought my first one and it has been such a great, usually if I'm overwhelmed at work, I'll take like 15 to 30 minutes because I don't have to think. Like it almost seems mindless, but it's actually good. And I'll mention, I saw that Lego recently released a mindfulness collection, and it's like a flower bouquet is one, and there's like a bonsai tree of Legos that you can buy. So there's some cool things that, and I'll see if I can find the link on the website, but it's like,
yeah, I bet you could
go mindfulness.
I bet you could buy Amazon, everything on Amazon. I bet they're on.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I want to do a Lego bonsai tree.
Yeah, it was so very interesting.
Very,
very
cool.
It surprised me, but I was like, that's cool.
That is so cool. Yeah, all these things are really, really great. Okay. So after this talk, what are you going to challenge yourself to do? Anybody have any self challenges? I'm throwing down the gauntlet. And what I mean by this is a self-care challenge. So it's a good one. So what do you think you might sort of wedge a little bit into your life to help de-stress or relax more, or whatever it is? Reading, but my go-to stress reliever is talking with my mother. Doesn't matter what we talk about as long as we have that connection. Yeah. Slow my mind down, close my eyes and recenter. I love it. Be more mindful, setting aside things that cause more stress to me. Yep. Implementing progressive muscle relaxation prior to tests for my students. Oh my God, I love that. That is so progressive that you're going to, no pun intended, you're going to do that with your students. Jill, that is amazing. I love that. Well, I love that folks are really thinking about doing, and you know what? It's not like I don't want you to feel like you have to sort of like reinvent your whole landscape of your life. This is about giving yourself space, right? And I think sometimes we don't treat ourselves well. And so this is what we need to be doing, right? All right. Okay. Oop, try and get my whole family involved in stress roulette. Yeah, we stress each other out. Absolutely. Yep. Oh, we got people looking into the Lego mindfulness. Might be a good
And I
resource for
shared the
students.
link in the chat.
Yeah, I am all over this bonsai, girl. Getting this bonsai. All right. Well, I always, you know what, I also find de-stress to be also found time. So I'm not going to take the whole hour. So I'm going to leave us with this. I want you we're just going to actually have a quiet, we're going to sit together for 1 minute. And I want you to just sit for a moment. And this is not something that you have to share in the group because this is very private and personal. But I want you to take a moment, close your eyes, and think of letting go of something that no longer serves you. So it's when I'm talking with folks, I kind of ask them questions about like, what do I need to change right now, right? What do I need to change in kind of the more distant future? And what can I let go of, you know? So I have some resources for you. And then I will get these to Elise as well. But I adore these books. So John Kabat-Zinn is basically the inventor of mindfulness practice in like the Western realm. And the book is called Wherever You Go, There You Are. And I really, it makes mindfulness and the practice of mindfulness very, it's tangible. It doesn't feel so out there, you know? I really like this book, and he has been doing this forever. This is the 10th anniversary edition. I love that one. And then the other book that I have up for you is this great workbook, a mindfulness-based stress reduction workbook. So those are my two kind of big go-to ones. So I'm going to show you this too, since you talk about implementing things in the classroom. Okay, so I know that you guys are dealing with students that are probably anxious more now than ever. So I don't know, you may or may not have seen one of these before. This thing is called a Hoberman ball. And it's like to get kids to buy in with breath work, or people that think kind of relaxation is sort of malarkey, if you will. So this is really helpful. So what I do is I hand this to a person. I first demonstrate it. I say, I'm going to show you what my breathing pattern is like right now. And when people are anxious, stressed, worried, what you'll find is like, this is their respiration rate, right? It may even be worse than that. And then after they slow their breath down, you teach them to just like visualize what normal breathing should look like. So this could be a cool way to show your students in the classroom a breathing technique, because it's, first of all, it's fun. It looks really freaking cool, but it works because it just really can give a very tangible way to show somebody what it's like when they're hyperventilating. And I think too, people are too, when they get nervous, some people hold their breath and they don't realize they're holding their breath. And then some people do the quick breath. but this is really cool. You can get these on Amazon. I love this. I use this with therapy patients, med students, work colleagues, and all kinds of folks. So there's my sales pitch for a Hoberman ball, but they're great. Absolutely great. So with that, I really, as always, appreciate the time that I get to be with you guys. And I just leave this now. The name of the item is, I think it's called a Hoberman ball. Let me double check my spelling, and I'll put it in the chat. I know it has different names, but let me make sure I'm spelling it right. It's like a Hoberman spear. Yeah, it's.
You know, Lauren, those things too. It's funny because I remember seeing those types of things as a kid at like the dentist's office and stuff, and everyone naturally picks it up and starts playing with it, right? It's like a slinky. Everyone picks it up and starts playing with it, and so
they're fantastic. So yeah, of course I Wikipedia'd it, and it was like they're all over the place. But I mean, I didn't really realize that. Oh, the largest existing sphere is in Estonia, and it is 19 feet in diameter, and it weighs 750 pounds. I don't think that you'll be buying that on Amazon. However, these excellent way to teach breathing techniques. All right. Any questions for me? Anything else? As always, like I said, I do really love spending this time with you guys, and I'm happy to do it. So I don't remember, at least off the top of my head, the date for the next one, but the next topic,
March 17th.
That is going to be our sleep session. So I'm going to stop sharing actually now, because I don't need to do that anymore. But what we will, we'll be talking about ways to help us with sleep. I'm going to actually talk a little bit about the science of sleep, kind of myths about sleep and sleep techniques. And then the last talk that we have scheduled, we still sort of have to be determined. And so that really is up to you guys that attend these talks, because I am happy to have another specific topic area. We just kind of haven't thought of another one, because the big ones we did were like mental health. We did this one. What else have we done? I know we done another one, and now I can't remember.
We did one that was specifically on like signs and symptoms of mental health issues, which was a little bit more targeted. And then we did kind of on broader, I'm trying to think of our last one, because that was our very first one. And then there was one we had a gap.
Yes. I don't know. I'm also not remembering exactly, but at any rate.
And they're being uploaded. I'll share, because someone asked about it in the chat. We add the webinar recordings to our Missouri Healthy Schools YouTube channel. There's a little bit of a delay right now because we were waiting on some thumbnails for them, but those should be getting uploaded soon. And this one will be included on that YouTube channel as well. If you ever are trying to find a recording and you can't, you can also contact us at info@mohealthyschools.com, and we can make sure to get it to you. Because we're still, figuring out some of those processes and such. And I see, Kathy, I'll copy your email and make sure you get the follow-up email from this webinar.
Well, thank you for the thank yous in the chat box. It's always nice to be with you guys, and please do email them about if there is another topic that you guys want, or if you want me to bring in a panelist with an expertise. I can bring a therapist on, like, kind of whatever.
And I'll share, Lauren, related to that, we, in our next newsletter, so those of you, if you haven't signed up, you can sign up for the newsletter at mohealthyschools.com. We're including a mini survey where people can tell us topics that they want MHS to cover. So if you would specifically love to see it be one of Lauren's webinars, you can note that. It's like a text box that you'll be able to just type into. Otherwise, we're just kind of broadly asking for, like, what are topics that matter to Missouri educators and school staff that they haven't seen covered yet. And that could include webinars, blog posts, shorter videos, things like that. But if you have an idea that you'd love to see related to mental health and well-being, put that, and you can specify that in that mini survey that'll go out next week.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, 10 minutes of found time is also for your wellness and relaxation. So everybody stay warm. I'm trying to see if it's still, no, it looks like it stopped snowing, at least where I am. So
Oh.
yeah. All right. You all take
Thank
care of
you.
yourselves and have a wonderful day.